In this video, I will show you how to create your letter form compositions. This is the first design challenge where you are using two 4-letter words in one in a sans serif font and one in a serif font, and abstracting those letter forms into 4 unique little mini compositions and then combining everything. So the first thing is obviously you'll be planning some stuff in your sketchbook, okay? And then you want to pick the 2 fonts that you want to use. So we talked about downloading fonts and how to install them. So you will use one serif and one sans serif font for this project. So the first word will be in whichever you choose, okay? Before you start, I want you to consider if you're using the uppercase or the lowercase letters, just in case you're wondering where those terms come from. Back when they used printing presses to create documents, the lower cases were used more often, so they were kept in literally a lower case of letters. So anyway, that's just a fun fact. Okay. So when you guys get started with this, after you've done your planning in your sketchbook, you are going to create a new document in Photoshop. So you go File, New, and we are going to make this 6 by 6 by 300 pixels, so 6 inches by 6 inches, and for some reason my color mode is defaulting to grayscale. Yours is probably defaulting to RGB. Doesn't matter, but I'm going to leave it on grayscale, and I'm going to leave my background white. Okay, so here I have my 6 by 6 canvas, and I am ready to begin. So what I'm going to do is use the type tool, that's this little T here, and draw a text box as large as I can in my shape. So I am going to use the letter L, and I'm going to switch this to my sans serif font. So I'm going to just use Avenir. You can choose to make it, if your font has multiple different options here, you can play around with these. I'm going to change it to black so it's the boldest that it can be. And right now I'm going to make it as large as I can. That doesn't fit in my box, so I'll make it 500, perfect, and accept those changes. Okay, now this is like just an L floating in white space, right? So I have to figure out how I'm going to make this an interesting composition. So we're going to play with rotation and size or scale or the proportion of the letter within the space, and where to place it. You can also choose to have your letter be a white letter on a black background. The easiest way to do that is, as you're working, you can just put the invert adjustment layer on top of your letter and background, and that will quickly change it to a black background with a white letter. Okay? So right now I'm going to hit Command T, or you can also go to Edit. Oops. It would help if I was actually in my layer. Edit Transform, and I can click on Scale or Rotate if I want, or you can just do Command T, and that will give you the free transform. So I can rotate my letter. I can also, if I hit Command 0, it's going to zoom out just enough to give you these little corners so that you can play around with the scale of the letter. So you want to make sure that this little chain link between a width and height is selected, or as you drag out your corners, you're holding the Shift key down. That will constrain your proportions so that you don't get like a short, fat, or a tall, skinny letter. So you want to play with this until you are happy. So you can try different rotations, different sizes, but the idea again is that we're looking at the forms and the counterforms. Counterform is that space in between enclosed letters, so like the space inside an O or a Q. and what that does to the composition. Okay, I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and scooch it down a little bit more. Okay, and I kind of like the skewed angle here, so I'm going to accept that. Okay, now let's say I like this. Okay, so I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to save this as my letter L. I'm going to leave it as a PSD just in case I decide I want to change it. Oops, I already have one saved, so I'm going to do L2, save, and click OK. Okay, so maybe I decide, oh, you know what, I want to change it, or whatever. Okay, now I'm going to go on. You can open up a new document and continue on from there, but since you're going to be using the same font and the same basic size and all that, you can actually just type in your next letter here. So I'm going to do the letter I next, which is kind of like a simple, like boring shape. So, you know, rectangle. So diagonal lines are pretty dynamic. Oops. I might decide I want to put it on more of an angle, or maybe I want to use the lowercase I and get that dot in there somehow. And maybe that needs to still be bigger. Yeah, so I'm going to hit Command 0 again so I can see my little handles there. And maybe I like that. Maybe I don't want it on an angle. Maybe I want to just make it really big. And have it come off like that. I don't know, okay? So let's say I like that. So now I'm going to go File, Save As. This is very important that you hit File, Save As. I'm going to call this I2 because I know I already have another I. And then hit Save. Okay. So as you do this, now I can just click back onto my type tool and type in the next letter, which would be N. Oops. This isn't letting me do it because, hold on. Nope. Okay, I'll just do that way. So I just created a new N, no big deal. Okay, so I'll make this bigger. And you know, you have to decide what looks the best for your letters. Maybe it needs to be even bigger. Maybe it needs to be on an angle. Okay. And maybe you want to invert it. I don't know. Okay. File, Save As. And you can see that I have L2, I2, I now have N2, and okay, and now I'll just make that an E. Maybe I want a capital E. Okay, and I'll continue to play around with that until I'm happy. Let's pretend I'm happy in the interest of saving time, and I'll call that E2 and hit save and OK. Okay, so when you're all done with all 8 letters, it would basically be that process. You can open up multiple documents. So I'll just go back to Open Recent and I'll open up my N. Open up. And my I. And my L. Okay, so I spelled out line, L-I-N-E. Okay, so what I can do is actually change my window, and I could look at all of them at the same time. Could do this. Actually, here, let me get this out of the way. And we can go to 4 up. And then if I click on the little tabs and then just hit Command 0, they'll fill the space more appropriately. Or Command minus, we'll zoom out. Okay, so now I can see all my letters and I can make some executive decisions here. Do I want to change anything? Do I want to make anything bigger or different? And then I can go ahead and do that. So let's say I'm happy. Okay, when you're happy and you're ready to start your new document, what you need to do is actually flatten all of these images. So what I would say is make sure everything is saved the way you like it. Okay, open up the 4 letters for the first word and then just click on flatten image. So you go to layer, flatten image. It's going to ask if you want to discard the hidden layers. Say yes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So layer, flatten, okay, layer, flatten, okay, layer, flatten, okay. Okay, and then I will go to File, New. And this document is going to be 20, let me just double check my notes, 26.5 wide by 13.5 tall, and create. Okay, so I'm going to actually go to my arrange and put everything back into tab so it's a little bit easier to deal with. So this is my new document. So I'm going to click on the add filler adjustment layer here, the little black and white cookie. I'm going to click on solid color and I'm going to pick a nice neutral gray as my background, so somewhere around here would be good, and click OK. And then I'm going to go to View, New Guide Layout. You want to make sure that you have 4 columns, 1 for each letter, and 2 rows. Add a gutter of a 1/2 inch on both rows and columns, and your margins all around should be a 1/2 inch as well, which will give you perfect 6-inch squares for each of your little sections. So I'm going to click OK on that, and now you can see I have these cyan lines here. So I'm going to go over to my E. I'm going to hit Command A and I'll get marching ants all around my E. Command C to copy and go back to my document here, and Command V to paste. And then I need to go to, where's my N? Here's my N. Command A, Command C, Command V, and move tool. And you'll see those little pink lines pop up, and that tells you that everything is aligned perfectly with your guides. Now I need my I, Command A, Command C, and Command V to paste it in, and the L. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, and now at this point you see them all together lined up and you're like, oh, maybe I don't like something, like maybe the L's too skinny. You can go back and I can go to edit, step backwards, do it twice, and that will give me back my layers. Okay, because I didn't save anything, so I can go back. So I could decide, like, okay, I want to make it bigger. And maybe have it intersect with that corner. Okay, and then again you would go to layer, flatten image, Command A, Command C, and go back to this document here and Command V, and maybe that gives me a better image. Okay, I like that better. Alright, at this point you can go to File, Save As, and you can call this last name letterforms1. This is the first design challenge there. And then hit save and hit OK. And then I would do my next word underneath, which would be form, which I have here. So I'm actually going to just go ahead and select these layers and pop them into here. And just like that. So there you go. Line in a sans serif font and form in a serif font. Looking at this again, I might decide to change my M around. I feel like it's a little bit skinny. When you do this, and you might decide like, okay, wait, I want to change some of my letters so that they're black on a white letter on a black background. So what you can do is, let's say I want to do all my vowels like that. I don't know. I'll click on the active layer, so that's my O layer, and I'll click on invert. Okay, now the problem is it does that to all the layers below it. Okay, you can see this little F here is on top and he's hanging out and he's still looking the way he did before. If I click on this little white box here, this will clip to the layer right below it. So it's only affecting my O. So let's see, where's my I? Here's my I. Do the same thing, clip to that layer, and my E. Invert and clip. Okay. And maybe that doesn't look so great. I just did it for demonstration purposes. You could even decide to, you know, do the whole thing. Turn that off. Turn that off. Okay. You know, so it's up to you when you get to this point. But at the end, it should look like this. Nice light gray background, and then on top you can add another blank layer and brush tool, and I don't have my signature, but you would pretend that's my signature, I guess. Stamp in your signature in the bottom, and then make sure you save this. This is saved as a PSD, and then you can go to File, Save As, and change the format to JPEG, and make sure a copy of that gets saved in the Final Projects folder so that I can grade it. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so thanks for watching, and have fun making your really cool letter form compositions.